Mark Mix is with us now, president of the National Right to Work Committee. You can find them on Twitter at Right to Work, and also find their website, of course, as well. Mark, thanks so much for joining us here on the Steve Gruber Show.
Scott, good to be with you on the Steve Gruber Show.
To ask you about my former home state, Mark Mix. I lived in Illinois my whole life until moving out here to Michigan about 5.5 years ago. And so I know how screwed up Illinois is, and it looks like they're about to screw things up even further. Well, it depends. We'll see what voters have to say about it. But Illinois, 27 states, I believe. You would know better than I. 27 states are right-to-work states in the country now. Illinois is not one of them. Michigan is. And Illinois, with Republicans helping Democrats, that's what frosts me. 11 in the Senate and 9 in the House, who vote with Democrats to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot in 2022 that would change the Illinois Constitution, amend the Constitution to ban any potential right-to-work laws in the future in Illinois. Do I have that situation about right?
Yeah, you do, Scott, and there's more to it. I mean, basically what they're saying is that anything that is in place now as it relates to government employee contracts and government employee unionization would remain in place and could not be altered by the legislature. So not only could you never pass a right-to-work law in Illinois, but the conditions, the pensions, all of the terms and conditions of employment in the public sector would be out of the reach of the legislature because this constitutional amendment would protect the economic welfare of those workers. I mean, this is a path to bankruptcy that Illinois is well along the road on already. But it really is an amazing piece of constitutional, and I'm using my finger quotes here, Scott, constitutional language when you're talking about empowering private organizations to do things that nobody can then effect. And, you know, one of the lessons from this comes from Michigan, actually. Bob King, the former president of the United Auto Workers Union, after we passed a right-to-work law in Indiana, decided that Michigan might be next. And so they put a constitutional amendment on the ballot that would prohibit passage of right to work. It lost by almost 17 points, and within weeks, Michigan became a right to work state because politicians said, oh my gosh, we may be on the wrong side of the freedom issue in the American workplace.
And it's amazing what Illinois politicians think is worthy to put on the ballot as an amendment, as a possible constitutional amendment. They won't put a independent map amendment on the ballot. They won't do anything to change the Illinois state constitution, which has provisions in there that already protect pensions. But they will put one on for a progressive tax, which thankfully voters defeated, and they will put one on for this issue as well. And by the way, Illinois is more than $200 billion, with a B, $200 billion of unfunded pension liability in Illinois, and they want to go farther. They want to do more to protect the unions and their policies in the state. It's crazy. Not the only craziness going on, Mark. Down south of the border in Mexico, the AFL-CIO, who, as you might expect, they're not really in favor of right-to-work protections here in the United States, but they appear to be in favor of right-to-work for Mexican workers in factories there. What's the story?
Yeah, you know, Scott, in Illinois, they're going to say that no worker can withhold their union dues or fees or deny to associate with a union in Illinois. And frankly, we have a federal labor policy that allows union officials to have workers fired if they don't pay union dues. But the AFL-CIO and the Biden administration are now on record basically saying that they want Mexican workers to have the right, and I'm quoting, to basically withhold their union dues and stop the company from forwarding them to an existing union. Now, those two things are actually in the National Labor Relations Act, saying that union officials can force a worker to pay union dues to keep their job, and that an employer has to bargain over the idea that he would collect the money for the union and send that to them through their paychecks. I mean, I don't know how to explain this, Scott. Maybe you have some kind of Alice in Wonderland quote that would describe that the AFL-CIO officials are more concerned about Mexican workers than they are American workers.
Mark, aren't they really, really concerned about free riders down in Mexico?
Well, I guess not, because what they're saying is the unions in Mexico are, quote, protection unions. But then again, one wouldn't have to look back too far in time to see the United Auto Workers working with the Fiat Chrysler Corporation to basically as a protection union of the company. In fact, 11 executives of the UAW are either in jail or on their way to jail right now. 3 executives from Chrysler, Fiat Chrysler now, whatever they call it, Santilla or whatever the name of it is, are in jail over this, quote, protection racket that they were running. But yet these things that happen in Mexico, and we've got to get outraged about it. In fact, the United States Trade Representative has suspended the so-called liquidation of these companies' goods from coming across the Mexican border into the United States. What that means is they won't let them come over because that liquidation process is the final process of paying the duties to get products into the country. So the leverage on the company is extreme, but they're going to investigate this. And Scott, they're saying that we must protect the free association. These workers are denied free association. But, well, I don't need to say much more, because workers in America who can be fired from their job for failure to pay union dues, that's perfectly fine with organized labor here in America.
Right. Mark Mix from the National Right to Work Foundation, nrtw.org. Find them on Twitter at Right to Work. We also we're out of time, Mark, but reminding people too to keep an eye on the PRO Act, because that has a provision that would outlaw right to work laws across the country. So keep an eye on that. Mark Mix, National Right to Work Committee. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Scott.